This is Tom Bain, and this is Wine, Money, and Song. Please press the like button and please subscribe if you enjoy the content and let other people know who are interested in wine. Today's episode is about a dinner I had in Paris in the summer of 1983. And it's a great memory that I still carry to this day. It's almost 40 years ago. And it was a great meal. It was a great selection of wines. And it was at a time, back in 1983, the French franc was very weak to the dollar. It was 10 francs to the dollar, and this was before the euro was put in. So normally it was about 4 francs per dollar, but in the summer of 83, the American dollar was so strong and the French franc was weak, so it was 10 francs per dollar. And my friend who I traveled with, Ron Metzger, he said to me, he says, we're going to have a great opportunity this year to buy wines off of restaurant lists, and it's going to be cheaper to buy off the restaurant list in Paris than it will be buying it back in America, even at wholesale. It's going to be cheaper in the restaurant in France. And he says, are we going to spend money or not? And I said, okay, we're going to spend some money and live the high life. So my friend Ron Metzger, he's been my mentor through wines, and he is one of the most knowledgeable. He's got to be in the 1/10 of the 1% most knowledgeable people about wine in his life. Wine is his whole life. So his nickname is Ron the King Metzger, and he deserves that crown. And he's known that way amongst his friends because of the respect they have of his wine knowledge. So the dinner was in July in 1983, and I was at a restaurant called Dinh in Paris. And it's run by 2 Vietnamese brothers, Robert and Freddie Diffrian. And they have a restaurant which is a French-Vietnamese fusion restaurant. And if you remember, the French occupied Vietnam for quite a period of time, so the cultures spill over into one another. And that night, we had a very, very special dinner, and I'm going to recount it to you. So back in 1983, Dinh restaurant, Ron told me that they were known for their selection of Pomerol back then. And Pomerol back in the early 80s really wasn't well known. Parker, the wine writer, popularized the Pomerol area, but Robert really enjoyed Pomerol, and he went directly to the chateaus and bought it, and he had a big cachet of Bordeaux and especially Pomerols. And they were known to have a very, very good wine cellar. Nowadays, I think they're more famous for having a great Burgundy selection. I haven't been back there in a while, but it's on my list to go back in the future. So we went in, and the menu was this. We had Nims, which is Vietnamese spring rolls. We started out with that, and we had the white wine, Ravignon Chablis Le Clos, 1978. And to understand Ravignon is what Chablis, what Chateau Yquem is to Sauternes, and what Romanée-Conti wines are to Burgundy. They are the pinnacle. And the 1978 was a great year in Chablis, and the Le Clos, which to me is the top Grand Cru vineyard, the wine was phenomenal. And what you get in a Ravignon wine is very, very small production, incredible mouthfeel and concentration, low yields, the wine is all around your palate with minerality, with concentrated fruit and great length. Now, we have the wine. The wine was only 5 years old, which is very, very young for Ravigno's wines. They aged 20, 30 years. But it was incredible Chablis. And the spring rolls started it off fantastically. The second course was Vietnamese ravioli, which had smoked goose stuffed in it. And it's a specialty of Tam Dinh. And we started with the red wines, Chateau Bécheville from Saint-Julien, 1945. And 1945 and 1947 are considered to be two of the greatest vintages ever in Bordeaux, along with probably 1928 and 82 later on. But and the thing about 45s and 47s is these happened during the war years, especially 45. The war ended, I think, sometime at the end of 45. So most of the people who were around to tend the vineyards back then were away at war. And it was very, very hard with the Nazis occupying France to make wine. And which is all the more remarkable. They made great vintages in 45 and 47. And 49 was excellent too. The Bécheville was one of the great Béchevils. And Bécheville to me is a middling wine that you really had to get a great vintage to really have a really good Bécheville. That has changed since the 80s and 90s and up to this point where they make much better wines now. But a 45 Bécheville, the wine was ripe in the mouth, round, and extra special. So the main dish was filet de boeuf au citron, which is a specialty of Tam Dinh also. And it's a tenderloin of beef spiced the right way with citron, with lemon, and an incredibly tender piece of meat. So the next two wines we had, the first one was Mouton Rothschild, 1947. And I just brushed up on Parker's view on 47 Mouton, and he said it's a 100-point wine, and he's never had an underperforming 47 Mouton. The wine is spectacular, 100-point wine, and I can reiterate what he said. It is profound wine, still incredibly young. Now, how could it be young? It's like 47, 53, 70-something years old. The colors of the 47s are incredible. I had 47 Lake Conseillant and 47 Latour Pomerol maybe 10 years ago, and the wines were still purple. The wines were still purple, and that's the low yields and the warm harvest. And the 47s are just incredible. And the Mouton was off the charts. One of the great Moutons ever produced. And the last wine served was 1947 Cheval Blanc. Now, if you have any knowledge at all about great Bordeaux wines, 47 Cheval Blanc is right near the top of the list of most of the people. And I've been lucky enough to have 1947 Cheval Blanc 4 or 5 times in my life. And this was the first time I had it. It was at Tam Dinh. And the wine, besides being the color, being so young, and the ripeness and the concentration in the wine and the minerality, the one thing that stands out about 47 Cheval Blanc is the richness and the concentration. It's like 14.1% alcohol, I think, or it might be 14.5. It's very rich, and it has at the finish some porty characteristics to it. But that only kicks in at the end of the wine. The initial palate and the mid palate and the finish, only in the finish does that portiness stick out. In the beginning and the mid palate, the wine is rich, ripe, fruity, and great Cheval Blanc. And only at the end do you taste that. And some people think that that's a flaw in the wine, but to me, it's about the vintage. 47 was a very hot vintage, and the wines were very ripe. And 1947 Cheval Blanc is an anomaly in winemaking. It was such a rich harvest that you have that finish, but still the wine is so perfectly balanced and low acidity, but the wine is just so packed with flavor and fruit, and a very great wine, a very great wine. So at the end of the night, our bill came out to about $1,200, and it was money well spent, I felt. We had 4 incredible wines, memorable meal, and the prices today of the Ravignon Chablis Les Clos, because try to find it. It would be around $3,000 a bottle today. The Becherville 45, which you might be able to find, which is $750 approximately priced, and that's cheap. Take a look in the context. Mouton Rothschild 47, Wine Searcher has it for $5,280. And as I said, it's a great Mouton. And 47 Cheval Blanc, hold on to your seats, strap yourself in, it's $8,676 average retail price on Wine Searcher. So that comes out nowadays, price is $17,000, $18,000. So we got away pretty damn cheap for a great meal and 4 incredible wines. And just to say one thing, it was a memorable night that I still remember like it was yesterday. And when you're in the food and wine business, you have certain experiences like that, and I will never forget it. And a last thing about Tandin, also famous dishes there. Robert makes a reconstructed chicken soup, which I find that many people swear by. And he also makes crab wontons are a specialty. And that's something you should try when you get here. And at the end of this video, you're going to see the information for Tandin. And if you have a chance, go there and even mention that you saw this episode. And I'm sure Robert would love to see you.